Greetings, Eastside Youth. Hope you guys are doing well. This is another pre-recorded Sunday morning. Sorry, guys. We will be back with the regular live stuff next week. But this is pre-recorded because I am going to be preaching. By the time you see this, I'll be getting ready to preach here in just a little bit. But I'm recording this on Friday afternoon. My tummy is full of mac and cheese. And we're just going to continue our morning discussion for Sunday morning youth in 2 Kings. Before we do that, I'm just going to open us in prayer. We'll get into it. Dear Lord, we thank you for today. Just thank you for each student. Lord, whenever they're seeing this, God, I pray that they're doing well. I pray that their families and those close to them are staying healthy, staying hopeful right now. God, we miss meeting together, but Lord, I know that we're looking forward to when we can get back to doing that again. We love you and thank you, and it's in your name we pray. Amen. Alrighty, guys. So like I said, we're going to be continuing our discussion in 2 Kings. We're going to be in 2 Kings chapter 8 this week, just continuing on. So let's just hop right into it. 2 Kings chapter 8. Starting in verse 1, it says, "Now Elisha had said to the woman whose son he had restored to life." So remember, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, we talked about how Elisha had been living with this family, and she wasn't able to have kids. And then he said, "No, you're going to have a son." And then she had a son, and then that son died. And then Elisha was able to bring that son back to life. So Elisha said to that woman, "Arise and depart with your household and sojourn wherever you can. For the Lord has called for a famine, and it will come upon the land for 7 years." So the woman arose and did according to the word of the man of God. She went with her household and sojourned in the land of the Philistines 7 years. And at the end of the 7 years, when the woman returned from the land of the Philistines, she went to appeal to the king for her house and her land. Now the king was talking with Gehazi, the servant of the man of God, saying, "Tell me all the great things that Elisha has done." And while he was telling the king how Elisha had restored the dead to life, behold, the woman whose son he had restored to life appealed to the king for her house and her land. And Gehazi said, "My lord, O king, here is the woman, and here is her son, whom Elisha has restored to life." And when the king asked the woman, she told him. So the king appointed an official for her, saying, "Restore all that was hers, together with all the produce of the fields, from the day that she left the land until now." All right, so again, this section revisits the Shunammite woman. And before the famine strikes the land, Elisha tells this family that he has been living with, he says, "Y'all need to get out. God is bringing a famine on the land, and you guys need to go somewhere. Don't care where. Just get out of here." And so the woman takes she and her family to the land of the Philistines, and they live there for 7 years. And during that 7 years, a lot happened in it. So 7 years is a long time. And so they're just not there to occupy this house and this land. And so what happened is, as all of this stuff is happening in these 7 years, she lost her land and she lost her property and her house and all this stuff. Excuse me. And then when she and her family return to the land 7 years later, she's like, I have lost everything. And she goes to the king and she asks for her land back and she appeals for them. And Gehazi, remember, Gehazi was Elisha's servant, and he's the guy that when the king or the commander of the army of the Assyrians, I believe it was, a few weeks ago, when he came with leprosy and Elisha told him to go dunk in the Jordan and he was healed, Gehazi is the guy who after that went out and tried to make a quick buck off of that guy's healing. And Elisha said, no, we don't do that. We're not about that. This was for the glory of God, and you have made money off of it. So Gehazi is now somewhat like in service to the king of Israel, and he testifies to this woman and testifies to who she is and how Elisha restored her son to life. So he's like, that's the lady that Elisha did all this stuff for. And in response to this, the king has her possessions restored to her. And so all of this stuff, she took an act of faith in leaving the land to go to land of foreign people for 7 years, and then to come back, and it would seem bad. And then she goes, instead of like doing kind of what the king does in the previous chapters where he starts to bemoan God and kind of give up, she turns to the man of God and says, help. I need help here. And that is what happens. So then continuing on, 2 Kings 8, starting in verse 7 now, it says, Now Elisha came to Damascus. Ben-Hadad, the king of Syria, was sick. And when it was told him, the man of God has come here, the king said to Hazael, Take a present with you and go to meet the man of God and inquire of the Lord through him, saying, Shall I recover from this sickness? So Hazael went to meet him and took a present with him, all kinds of goods of Damascus, 40 camels' loads. And when he came and stood before him, he said, Your son Ben-Hadad, king of Syria, has sent me to you, saying, Shall I recover from this sickness? And Elisha said to him, Go, say to him, You shall certainly recover, but the Lord has shown me that you shall certainly die. And he fixed his gaze and stared at him until he was embarrassed. And the man of God wept. And Hazael said, Why does my Lord weep? And he answered, Because I know the evil that you will do the people of Israel. You will set on fire their fortresses, and you will kill their young men with the sword, and dash in pieces their little ones, and rip open their pregnant women. And Hazael said, What is your servant, who is but a dog, that he should go do this great thing? And Elisha answered, The Lord has shown me that you are to be king over Syria. Then he departed from Elisha, and came to his master, who said to him, What did Elisha say to you? And he answered, He told me that you would certainly recover. But the next day he took the bedcloth and dipped it in water and spread it over his face till he died. And Hazael became king in his place. Excuse me. So next, the king of Syria hears about Elisha being in Damascus, and the king of Syria is really sick. And so he sends someone named Hazael to Elisha to ask Elisha whether or not the king is going to get better. So Hazael goes and he asks Elisha, he's like, Hey, the king's sick. Is he going to get better? Like, what's going on? And Elisha says, well, he's going to get better. Like that sickness is not what is going to kill him. But he's still going to die. And then there's this like weird moment where Elisha and Hazael are like staring each other down for a while. And finally, like Elisha starts tearing up, and Hazael is like, what is wrong with you? Like, what's going on? What are you doing? And Elisha goes, I know the terrible things that you are going to do to God's people, and it's bad. And Elisha, like, it's one of these things where we see this tension of like the good prophet, the prophet who is actually doing the things that God has called them to do, has to deliver these awful messages and has to stare these guys in the face who are going to do heinous, awful things. And Elisha stands there and he's like, I know you're going to be king, and I hate it, and I don't like it because I know the terrible things you're going to do, but this is what God has shown me. And so from here, Hazael goes back, he delivers the message. He's like, yeah, this thing I want to kill you. And then while the king's sleeping, Hazael takes a wet cloth, suffocates the king, and then Hazael assumes kingship over the people of Syria, taking it from Ben-Hadad. And then we continue in verse 16. It says, In the 5th year of Joram, the son of Ahab, the king of Israel, when Jehoshaphat was king of Judah, Jehoram, the son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, began to reign. He was 32 years old when he became king, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem, and he walked in the way of the king of Israel, as the house of Ahab had done, for the daughter of Ahab was his wife. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. Yet the Lord was not willing to destroy Judah, for the sake of David his servant, since he promised to give a lamp to him and to his sons forever. In his days, Edom revolted from the rule of Judah and set up a king of their own. Then Joram passed over to Zaire with his chariots and rose by night, and he and his chariot commander struck the Edomites who had surrounded him, but his army fled home. So Edom revolted from the rule of Judah to this day. Then Libnah revolted at the same time. Now the rest of the acts of Joram and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? So Joram slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David, and Ahaziah his son reigned in his place. So we've spent a long time kind of chronicling and looking at like the big adventures of Elijah and Elisha. Excuse me. And we've taken a long time to look at these two prophets, these two men of God, as they have interacted with various kings and various other world powers. And now, in the last half of 2 Kings 8, we hop back to the old structure that we're used to in 1 Kings and the beginning of 2 Kings. Excuse me, where it's highlighting this king who is king of the people. It tells us when he became king, and it tells us an idea of how long he was king for. And then we also get a note about, like, was he a good king? Did he do the right stuff? And so here we hear about a guy, named Jehoram. So Jehoram is king of Judah, and he did not keep to the faithfulness of David. So we get this tension where it's like, hey, Jehoram's king, and he did the bad stuff that was what the kings who were ignoring what God was saying was doing. However, God is still faithful to his promise to David. So even though Jehoram does not fulfill his side of the faithfulness, God upholds his side and is faithful despite Jehoram's lack of faithfulness in that relationship. And so we're told that during his reign, the people of Edom, which you guys know me, I'm not that good at planning stuff out. We are going to be talking extensively about Edom in just a little while in Sunday morning service. So I hope that you guys can make it over to the East Side page to see that. But during his reign, the people of Edom revolted and they set up a king of their own. So now Edom is like way back. They're like second cousins to the Israelites. And here in a little while, so they set up their own king. And they are able to oust the military and set that up. And so they break away from the people of Judah. So that is what happens under Jehoram's reign. And then it says that after that, Jehoram slept with his fathers, and Ahaziah, his son, reigned in his place. So then starting in verse 25, we get to hear about Ahaziah. So it says, in the 12th year of Joram, the son of Ahab, king of Israel, Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, began to reign. Ahaziah was 22 years old when he began to reign. It's pretty young. And he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. It's not very long. His mother's name was Athaliah. She was a granddaughter of Omri, king of Israel. He also walked in the way of the house of Ahab and did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, as the house of Ahab had done, for he was son-in-law to the house of Ahab. He went with Joram, the son of Ahab, to make war against Hazael, king of Syria, at Ramoth-Gilead, and the Syrians wounded Joram. And King Joram returned to be healed in Jezreel of the wounds that the Syrians had given him at Ramah, when he fought against Hazael, king of Syria. And Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, went down to see Joram, the son of Ahab, in Jezreel, because he was sick. Excuse me. So, in this last section, we read about Ahaziah, who, it says, par for the course, stuck with what his dad and his dad before him did, and did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. And we're told how so Ahaziah, who is Judah's leader, and Joram, who is Israel's leader, went to war against the Syrian king Hazael, and we saw how he became king in the previous chapter. So Hazael, who murdered the former king Ben-Hadad, is now king of Syria, and now Joram and Ahaziah are going to war against Hazael, king of Syria. And in this battle, it says that the king of Israel, Joram, gets wounded. And he returns and he's going back, I believe, to Jezreel, it says. He's going back to Jezreel to be wounded. And I highlight all that because that stuff's going to be super important next week in 2 Kings 9. So Joram is wounded in battle. And then we close this section with this weird note that it says, Ahaziah goes to visit Joram because he is sick. And we get this little picture that the people of Israel and the people of Judah are working together. And they are unified, and they are on the same team, united against a common enemy, Hazael. And at first glance, and if we would just stop there, we'd go, yes, they've been split up, this is bad, and now they're working together, and this is good. However, it is not enough to be unified, period. Not enough. The people of God must be unified under the one true God, or else that unity is just like, okay, well, we all love pizza, we're unified under pizza. No, it's pointless. And here, they're unified under doing what the Lord said was not to do. It said they did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. So, yes, they're unified and they're working toward a common goal of defeating Hazael, but that unity is not the point, because they are unified under the umbrella of doing what is evil in the sight of the Lord. And that's not good. The people of God have to be unified under God. Otherwise, they're not looking like the people of God. In fact, their actions directly compare to the corrupt actions of the kings surrounding them. We see Hazael oust and take this power, and we know, like, oh, yeah, that's evil. But the kings of Israel and the kings of Judah, they're also doing what's evil in the sight of the Lord. And so we have this, like, outsider Hazael who, he committed murder to be king. And we have these two kings of Judah and Israel who were said they're doing what's evil in the sight of the Lord, and they're coming to battle. And we're going to see some of that play out next week in 2 Kings 9. But what I would leave you with is when you take everything apart and you look at what is the foundation of what holds your relationship, your community, your church, whatever it is, together, if that group and that community and that relationship is supposed to be pointing people toward God, then the thing that needs to be the unifying factor needs to be God and doing what pleases God. That is kind of the small lesson that we can learn from Ahaziah and Joram this week in relationship to Hazael. So that's all for 2 Kings 8, guys. We'll be in 2 Kings 9 next Sunday morning. We're cruising through. We're about a third of the way through 2 Kings. We will probably be rounding that off sometime this summer. Also tonight, join us. We're going to be starting first lesson in our At a Glance series. We're going to be looking at the book of Numbers now. We just finished Leviticus. We're going to be turning our attention to the next book in the Bible, the book of Numbers. And you can think of it as like the first 5 books of the Bible. It's like part 4 of 5 in those first 5 books. So we're going to be looking at that starting tonight. I'm really excited for Numbers because it has some of the weirdest stuff, some of the most challenging stuff. And I know I shared a while back that there's going to be times when we're talking about the people of God, namely the people of Israel in the Old Testament, and we're going to want to like bang our head against the wall. And when we go through the book of Numbers, here we are. Get ready to be frustrated, but also learn to stretch our grace and stretch our patience. Because remember, if the picture of what we see with the people of Israel, we are not God in that picture. And so the implication is that we tend to be more like Israel. So this is 2 Kings 8. I love you guys. I hope you guys have a great day. Enjoy some sunshine. And I will see you hopefully here in a few minutes for Sunday service with the Eastside Facebook group. And then later tonight we'll be live for Eastside Youth at, I believe 4. Man, it's been a while. No, it's 5 o'clock. Sorry, guys. 5 p.m. we'll be live for Eastside Youth. Love you guys. Stay healthy. Stay hopeful. I'll see you later.